Sahar. I'm so glad you're the first one who's joining. Hi Farzana John. Hi Nagar. Hi Zore. Good to see everyone. Hello. Are you guys anxious or happy or excited to see our lives with Jeff? Hi Parisa John. Welcome. Guys, I'm also going live from Facebook, Sudi_Burnett. You can also join me from there. Hi Dunya, hi Amirjan. Good to have you all here. I did a meditation for you guys. Yes, I'm happy to see you too, sir. It's been a long time. Yeah. I did a meditation for you guys this morning to see how I start my morning. Do we have Jeff again? Yes, Jeff again. I did a hike with him yesterday. It's really good because somehow he pushes me out of my comfort zone and to go somewhere and do something, which is good. We talked about a lot of stuff, but he wasn't willing to share everything, so I'm gonna catch him again today, and we're gonna see how far we can get in and get personal and intimate with one another. This is something to practice. Something to it's a part of us that is great to strengthen our authenticity and being comfortable with who we are, and also share those part of us, the shadow side of us. And each time we share a part of us that we don't like as shadow, or we are ashamed of, or we think that it's something that we're not comfortable with. Once we share it with someone, it's just so empowering. And then we realize all of a sudden that maybe we made this thing too big in our head. You know, did you guys ever notice like something is going on and we're just making it way too big, and we're thinking, oh my God, this is like so huge. But then as soon as we share it with someone else, is this Jeff? Yes, he is. Hi Jeff. Let me see if I can get you. Can Jeff send me a friend request? Jeff, do you remember how to send a friend request so I can? Yes, here we are. Yeah. Yeah. So as soon as we talk about it, it's just we see that it's not so huge. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning. Can you see me if I turn my phone sideways?
We can see you, but do
Like,
you want to be sideways? We would prefer that.
well, I was trying to see if you could see me, if you could see me without me being.
We can see you now.
Okay, let's see if I can make this work. I don't have those wireless AirPods yet,
Yeah.
so I'm trying to hold the phone in a holder with the let's see. Okay, that should work.
Yeah, beautiful. You got it.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Beautiful. How did you start your morning today, Jeff?
Shoot. I started my morning looking at some artwork that an artist I've commissioned sent me for a project and having a cup of coffee.
Mm.
How about you?
You know me, I get up at 4 or 4:30ish, and I think it was around 7ish I did a guided meditation because the birds are singing, and it's just like I have this symphony of different birds singing. So I did a guided meditation, and
Nice.
then I got engaged with the girls and getting into business and all this good stuff. Yeah. So we're happy to have you. Shall we dive into our subject for of
Yeah, for
today?
sure. So we were talking about habits, right?
Yes,
It's a big subject.
I know.
It's not a small one. So why don't you lead? I mean, how do you want to, what about habits? What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, here's the deal. Like, we're, as you know, we're the creatures of habits. And there are some of them, but that we know they're destructive, right? And we keep telling ourselves and we promise ourselves that we're going to stop that or we're going to do something different. But the next day, before knowing, I'm doing the same thing that I didn't want to do. For instance, I was talking to someone the other day, and it's about exercising and about eating healthy. And we all know what's healthy eating, and we all know the benefits of exercising. But she says, every day I said, I get mad at myself in the afternoon. Oh, I didn't do, what did I do with my day today? Same routine and everything that I didn't like or it wasn't productive. But the next day, I can't stop myself. I get into that routines of my
Mhm.
habits and destructive habits or some stuff that is not beneficial. How about if you pick up from here?
I think that it's important that we separate habits from routines
Aha.
because I don't think that they're the same thing. You know, like everybody wants to have a really great exercise routine. And I don't look at that as a habit because it's like life gets in the way. And as life kind of happens to us, we tend to look at the different routines we have, whether it's cooking at home instead of going out or exercising as much as we want to exercise or whatever it is. And health care or self-health care tends to suffer first, right? It's like if we've got something else in the world to do, what's the first thing that we're going to do? We're going to stop exercising or we're going to stop eating well or whatever because we need to eat fast because we just disrespect ourselves. That's that's different than I think habits. Now, underneath that, and that's it's not even really habits because underneath the routines is beliefs and values. It's not habits because underneath the routines with beliefs and values is you have to have a value for yourself that like I come first. So it's not even a habit still because you're saying, well, I have this routine where I get up and I exercise every morning, or for me personally, I actually like to exercise at night. It just works for my body. So it's like, well, I have this exercise where I do this every single day. Well, this came up in life. Let's say I've got a business project or I have, just something that's a time demand. Well, I have to have a belief or a value that I come first. I come first. I'm going to treat myself right first because if I don't, I'm not going to feel good. I'm not going to be able to perform at the level I want to perform, whatever. So that's more of a belief. It's still not a habit. I think that with habits, I always use something very, very simple. I pick up a glass with my left hand and I want to pick up the glass with my right hand. That's a habit. It's a physical reaction to something. And we can talk about really big exaggerated habits and empowering habits or destructive habits, but I think that just looking at something super simple, I pick up a glass with my left hand, I want to pick up the glass with my right hand. What's happening and how do I change that? How about, does that seem like a good place to go?
Mhm.
Or do you want to, is it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so I think from what I understand, and I'm not master at anything, but I'm pretty good at least the mechanics of habits, is that we have to understand that there is a biology to habits. There are neural pathways in the brain that are connected that cause us. So when I pick up the glass with my left hand, there is a neural pathway in my brain. So in order to pick up the glass with my right hand, I have to disconnect the neural pathway in my brain and reconnect and form a new neural pathway. And this has been, I mean, science has watched this happen. You can go online and literally watch videos where, I don't know how they get the cameras in there, but I mean, like, you know, they can actually in there watch the neural networks being formed as habits get formed. We see this when in dog training. I mean, this is something that has been, you know, proven that that's what's happening. You're forming a neural network in the brain, and that forms a behavior, because a habit's a behavior. So the first step of changing anything is we have to observe it. We have to notice it. If we don't notice it, or somebody doesn't point it out to us, then we're never going to change it. So I think a lot about athletes and coaches. All top athletes still have coaches, because all top athletes, let's say it's a wide receiver and he's running down the field and maybe he starts dropping balls, or, you know, a basketball player just starts missing shots. Well, a good coach is going to say, hey, you know, I noticed that you started leaning on your left leg instead of on your right leg, or, you know, something like that. Well, that's a change in the player's behavior that the coach is going to notice. That's becoming a new habit. So let's shift that habit back to where it was. Now all of a sudden you're catching the ball again. Now, you know, all of a sudden you're making the shots, right? This is very, very topical stuff, but still very significant. So you have to notice it. So we might notice that in our lives in the phrase, why does this always happen to me? And it's not always beliefs and values. And I've seen that kind of come up in the comments. And I mean, beliefs and values are everything. And, you know, it's not just, if we're asking ourselves that question, why does this always happen? It's because there's this habit, this routine that I'm going to let routines and habits kind of collapse, because in that state, we can say, well, there is a habit, there is a routine that's happening, which is why I'm getting the same results over and over and over again. And so you have to notice it. You might say, like, how come I always blow a job interview? How come I always screw up my romantic relationships? How come I always attract the wrong person into my life? How come I'm broke all the time? You know, like, these are things where you have to kind of look at your habits around those things. Once you notice it, that's step one. And then step two is you have to design where you want to go. You need a target. If you don't have a target, you've got nothing. Like, I pick up the glass with my left hand. What's my target? I want to pick up the glass with my right hand. If you don't set a clear target, and I like things that are dramatically opposite. There are some people out there that like to kind of create a habit that's maybe 10 degrees off or 20 degrees off. I think if you're trying to shift something, it's like, you got to be really dramatic. It's like, I pick up something with my left hand. I want it to be my right hand. That's the complete opposite thing. Once you've got that target to shoot at, then what will happen without anything further going on? You will start to notice when you're doing what you want to change. So I'll notice when I start picking up the glass with my left hand. It's not going to happen necessarily every time, but if I remember my goal, then I might notice, oh, wait, I'm doing it. And I've noticed that even even if it's something much more subtle and delicate and nuanced, like if I'm interacting with somebody, and I'll say, oh, I noticed that my body language. I'll say, oh, I noticed that I'm giving this body language. That's my habitual body language. Wait a minute. I want to give different body language. That's right. You know, so after a while, you start getting these interrupts. If you know where you are and where you want to go, then you will start to notice the interrupts, or you'll start to notice when it happens so that you can interrupt it and be like, wait a minute, that's not what I want to do. And over time, again, if you don't employ any other techniques or strategies, then over time, you're naturally going to start to catch it. And then you're going to start to catch it sooner. And then you're going to start to catch it sooner. And then you're going to start to catch it sooner until that one day where you're going to hit this midpoint. We're going to say, wait, because what'll happen, at least what happened is to me is like, you grab the glass with your left hand and you go, wait a minute, that's not what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do is grab the glass with my left hand. So you put it down and you take the correct action. So again, if I'm in a social interaction, I say, wait a minute, I'm giving this body posture, this body language, maybe I'm leaning in. Right? So this is something I've wanted to do to cultivate power, especially in my business communication, right? Even in romantic communication, both in business and romantic communication, right? People that are leaning in are giving a posture that they're actually submitting. A powerful position is leaning back. Powerful people lean back. Powerful people don't lean in. People that are leaning in are giving power to the other person, okay? So that's something where that's very, very significant and very, very subtle. So you're like, wait a minute, I'm leaning in again. I need to not be doing that. I need to be leaning back. I need to be sitting back like I've got power and I got no cares in the world. So you will start to realize, wait a minute, I'm doing the thing that I want to correct. Let me change that. Let me change that. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time for that shift. Now, what can help speed things up? There are two major things that can help speed things up. One, and I know, because you work in a more spiritual space, is meditation. Meditation can speed things up. There's actually several things that can speed things up, actually. But one is meditation. If we meditate on the result that we want, we will unwire and rewire faster. The second thing is, even in a beta state of consciousness, like right now when we're alert and talking and aware of the world, we're in a beta vibration, a beta state of consciousness. We can still rehearse things. So you often hear about athletes rehearsing in their brains their moves, right? So we can do that, and it does train us. It does start to wire that neural network, even if we're not actually doing it, just visualizing it and rehearsing it. So through visualizing it and rehearsing it, meditation, those two things speed it up. The other thing is the concept of getting leverage on yourself. And this is a big thing. And I mean, I'm at fault for this. I think most people are at fault for this, is we don't often get leverage on ourselves. And that creates the why, right? I want to pick up this glass, or I pick up the glass with my left hand. I want to pick up the glass with my right hand. Why? Who cares? Why? Now, if I'm talking about power, let's say in a romantic interaction or a business interaction, there's a really big why. Because I want the other person to see me as a powerful person. So there's a very big why, because if I'm being seen as a weaker person, I'm leaning in, man, all my business relationships are just, I'm getting taken advantage of. I'm not winning. I'm not signing the deals. I'm not getting the jobs or the contracts or whatever. And then maybe romantically, it's kind of like, how come things aren't going the way that I think they should? Well, you're leaning in all the time. You're showing too much interest. You're giving up too much power. Oh, okay. So there's a lot at stake in both business and romance. It's like, wait a minute. I have to show less interest in the other person, retain my power, keep my power over here with me. Now, all of a sudden, I'm projecting a different energy to the other side. And now things are starting to go my way. So that's a really big why, because everybody's interested in romance, health, wealth and relationships, right? So with health, it's another thing. But health, you got like when people look at their exercise routines and their health is, you've got to get to the place of, I'm going to die if I don't change this. So we were joking yesterday. I think you went live briefly and we were saying, Jeff's a vegan. Does everyone know Jeff's a vegan? And then when we parted ways later, we talked about gluten. I said, normally I'm gluten-free, right? And you're like, gluten-free and vegan. Well, a little backstory on the gluten thing is I was sick for a super long time. And I had all sorts of tests. And doctors, like, being gluten-free was not a common, well-known thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I go to the doctor. I had a zillion, procedures and tests and all kinds of blood work. It was terrible. And they couldn't figure out what the problem was. And then one of the doctors said, I want to do one more blood panel. So I did it, and she said, there's this antibody, and yours is sky high. And this antibody has to do with gluten. So when you eat gluten, your body sees it as an invader, and it's attacking itself. It's like an autoimmune thing. So she gives me this gigantic bottle of capsules, of pills. I'm like, what's that? And she goes, well, these will ease your discomfort. I said, so I'm going to take pills that are going to ease my discomfort as I'm slowly killing myself. And she's like, well, when you say it like that, I'm like, well, but that's what I'm doing, right? And she's like, well, yeah. I'm like, well, can I just not eat gluten? Now, this was like 13 years ago. She's like, you can't do that, because there wasn't this gluten-free trend. So she's like, that's going to be impossible. I'm like, watch me, because I had a big enough why. So you want me to take these pills while I'm slowly killing myself? Do I want to slowly kill myself? I'm sick all the time, and I don't. And you're finally giving me an answer. I have been sick maybe my whole life, and you are finally giving me the answer to why I've been sick my whole life, and you want me to take pills when I could just not consume the foods that have been killing me my whole life, and I'm going to feel better? I had a big why.
Yeah.
It was still hard to go gluten-free. It was still hard. Now it's easy. It's easier now because there's so many foods on the market. So many restaurants have gluten-free options. But it was hard then. But that why of like, and when I cut gluten out, after a few days, I immediately felt better. And then it took months for my body to actually heal. And as my body healed, it was like, and I started to like, I was always kind of bloated. Even when I was thin, people would be like, you're thin. I'd be like, but I'm bloated. And people would say, I don't see the bloat. I'm like, but I know it. And as soon as like my body started to heal, the bloat started to go away. I started to just have more energy, all those things. And it's like, I'm never eating gluten again. Now I cheat here and there, but as a typical rule, I don't consume gluten because I actually feel better. I actually live a healthier life now.
Yeah.
So that sped up the habit real fast because I had a giant why. I'm going to die if I live this way, and I'm going to live if I do this way, right? So that's going to speed up your habit real fast.
So that's about when you're saying about leverage. That's what you're breaking it down into. Your why has to be huge, and it has to be really big for you eventually to get there. Like I giving you an example. My friend that we were talking about, my British friend. He was a smoker. He was a heavy smoker. Of course, he smoked outside, and he was drinking. And a few times, as we discussed, I keep bringing it to his attention, because he was a writer. I said, do you ever notice, like, as you're writing, he was typing constantly, how much do you smoke? And he goes, oh my God, I know, maybe some days about 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and then the drinking and all that. And then one day I said to him, I said, he kept complaining. I said, do you want to go for a hike? And he says, oh, I'm so out of shape and that stuff. I said, so let's break it down. Let's start by just walking, like on a flat neighborhood street. And we did that, and he kept complaining about his leg. He said, it's so much pain, something. I said, there's something with your heart. Oh, no. I said, go test it out. There might be something. So he went, and funny enough, yes, he had his heart was clogged up, right? As soon as the doctor told him, and they did a tiny minor operation on him, right away, he quit turkey. Smoke, alcohol. And even I asked him, I said, you don't drink coffee in the morning? He said, no, because the coffee in the morning reminds me of smoking. This is the habit.
Mm.
First thing in the morning, coffee, cigarette. He says, if I start the coffee, I'm just going to eventually pull back into smoking. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, he would never, ever, he would complain, he would cough, he would sting like cigarettes and all that stuff. He had absolutely no energy. But he didn't do it until the doctor said, oh, you got a heart problem. So now that clicks and he's like, okay, I'm doing it. Yeah.
There's something there for me when you talk about that. So, when we talk about leverage, I think, when somebody earlier said, values and beliefs, and I said, well, that's kind of everything. I think values, let's not talk about beliefs because they're different. But when we talk about values, I think values can help you get that leverage, because if you value your health, that's going to help you get that leverage. If you don't value your health, you're not going to care about the leverage.
Yeah.
You're not going to get it because you're not going to care. So it's not always easy, because my value around my own personal health is super high. It's super high. And it causes me to explore some pretty exaggerated or extreme dietary options at times. And so, I used to work in the alcohol industry, and I drank more than any person has any reasonable amount. And after a while, it was like, I've often said this to people in my circles, like, I wish that alcohol didn't contain alcohol. I wish that stimulants didn't contain stimulants. Like, I wish that those things weren't in the things, because I love food and beverage. I love to enjoy it. I love to enjoy a glass of wine or a beer or something like that. I kind of wish it didn't have alcohol, and no non-alcoholic wine and beer does not taste good. Same thing with coffee. Decaf coffee does not taste good. And I feel like I'm still getting the negative effects of the coffee without, I'm not really getting any of the beneficial effects, which is the flavor. For me, it's about the flavor, that enjoyment. So, when I hear recently, like I love coffee, and I pretty much don't drink anymore. I've rarely in my youth smoked cigarettes. I don't smoke. But I got to this point where, like, I really got into coffee because I really love it. And I never drank it because the stimulation was too much. So I was like, well, I value my health more than I value the coffee. And then in the last few years, I was just like, screw it. Like, I want to drink this stuff, And so I thought, maybe if I drink it enough.
Change my value.
Yeah. I was like, well, maybe if I drink it enough, my body will get used to it. Someone says, what's bad about coffee? Nothing. For me, the type of coffee I drink, because I drink small batch custom roasted, light roasted coffee, 1 cup gets me insanely sped.
Yeah.
One cup.
Let me get into that. Nirvana, let me tell you, everything affects, like, whatever you put into your body affects you differently. Like, for instance, for me, because I'm kind of slow speed, and I'm more earthy and that stuff. I'm a Taurian, I move a little bit like slower. Not that I don't mean the walking and that stuff, but I'm more reserved and my energy is more sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff, on the other hand, he's a Sagittarius. He's a fire. You can see that as he's talking, like, he's so passionate and all that. And his body type is Vata. I told him the other day, I said, your body type, according to Ayurvedic, is Vata. Vata is air and space. He's all mind. Like, he's like, blah, 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 blah. And 1 cup of coffee for him is just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It creates imbalance in his energy field. I mean, for me, having 1 or 2 coffee a day kind of brings me up a little bit to a good level. But for Jeff, which is Vata, air and space, the mind is going so fast. And actually, we had this conversation yesterday, because we walked and talked, and at some point, we had this conversation I said to Jeff, what was it, Jeff, that you said it was about the mind? And I told you, I said, give me a second. And I came back and I said, when you come from the mind has judgment, the mind has objective translation, good, bad, blah, blah, blah. But when you come from the heart, oh, I said in the mind, people have different level of intelligence. Some people are sharper, some people are not, some people are more conscious, some are not. So when you're relaying your information in the translation in the mind, it would be different for the individual. But when you're coming from the heart, because the heart doesn't have that lens of judgment and all that, it's the same for everyone. So let me say, I'm coming from fully from my heart and soul, and I'm talking to this simplest person in, like when I went to Peru, like to this farmer. Well, he hardly speak any English, you know. But when I woke up in the morning, we had a conversation going on with a few words, or it was more mimicking body language. You know, the sheep, blah, blah, blah. We're talking like this, but it's because we both coming, he's so simple, he's coming more from the heart coherence, and we understanding one another. It's not that he's not educated, or, you know, we didn't have that, because it's that feeling, we coming heart from heart. So that's what we were saying. Yes, we had this conversation yesterday that it's so often everything, even the teaching, it's so individual for someone who is more coming from the mind, which I used to be there, Jeff. You know, I was diagnosed with OCD, ADHD, for God's sake. I mean, my brain was going so fast, and two conversation at the same time. But it was by the time that when was it? I got into healing maybe 12, 13 years ago, that I just got lean into slowing down and meditation, and I kind of created that balance and making that switch coming from the heart, becoming from the feeling body more than coming from the mind. Do you have something to add?
Yeah, I want to go with what you're talking about, but before we get there, I want to kind of put a bow on the conversation about, you know, the coffee, because when I was saying, like, to get leverage or not have leverage, and, you know, for me, like, I just bought a bunch of new coffee. I just went and saw my guy, and again, he's a custom roaster. He roasts, you know, less than 10 miles away. So I just went and picked up a ton of new coffee. It's like, I know that my body would be better if I either didn't drink any stimulants, or my body does really well with yerba mate. Like, it's fantastic. I love the experience of it. But I'm going to drink it anyway because I don't have a big enough why yet. It's like, I have a why. I feel better, but I'm just choosing not to. I don't really want to give it up. So we sometimes have to realize that we don't always want to give up our habit. We're getting a win. We're always getting a win. Everything that we do, we're going to get a win from, even if it's something destructive. Even if it's something destructive, there's a win. We just have to recognize it. So if we enjoy the win, we're going to keep doing it. But I wanted to lead that into you, because you said, because, you know, I am very intellectual, you know, and whatever happened in my life, you know, whether it happened at a young age or more recently, it's like there was maybe a shift out of my heart more into my head. And you said you were there too, OCD, ADHD, but you went into your heart. See, that to me is a habit. That's not a routine. That's a habit. Going into your head and being intellectual, analytical, all those things, like that to me is a habit. Shifting from that into your heart. So this is everything that we're talking about. It's like, and that's a big thing. How do you now, where do you come up with the why? Where do you come up with the why? Because here's the thing. Being super intellectual for me is a winning strategy. it's a winning strategy. It's gotten me very far.
Mm-hmm.
It's something where when I talk, a lot of times people listen to what I have to say. There's power in that. So I'm winning. I can sit here, I can command a group of people. I've got, but then there's other ways in my life where I'm losing. So it's like, it occurs to me, and I'm not saying it's true. We were talking a little bit about this. Like, it kind of occurs to me that, like, to make that shift, am I going to lose anywhere? Am I going to lose the influence? Am I going to lose the power? Am I going to gain greater power, gain greater influence? Who knows? But there's definitely areas of my life that I lose because I'm stuck up here and not dropping down into here. So what was it for you? Where was your leverage when you made that shift?
Well, here's the thing, Jeff. You know, when I look back at my life, although I always came across someone who was very strong, strong-willed and all that, I didn't really ever plan my life. I mean, I just did all these text messages. Can you still hear me? Yeah. I forgot to turn off the notification. I never really planned my life. I used to be like this. Like when when I left Iran, I was a teenager. So when I came in, I came with this goal that I'm going to have to make it on my own. I didn't want to get any support from my family, whatever. I left Iran with $1,000, which I got from my family, and that was the only time I got money from them. But I didn't really have any certain goal or plan, like how I was going to do it. So it was always like I would look at the paper, many years ago, it wasn't like this. You would go to buy the newspaper and there was a section looking for job. And then I would find something and I would do that. And then I would continue doing that work, not planning ahead. And then suddenly I would, for instance, I remember I talked to my brother and I said, what's the quickest way that I can make money to put myself through college and university? And my brother said, two things always, no matter recessions, no matter war, whatever, people always get their hair done and food. These two categories will always bring money. So I thought, I'm going to study cosmetology, right? So I went to cosmetology school, became licensed as a cosmetologist, and I started working doing that, putting myself to college. But the first thing I did was working in the restaurant, right? So I never really planned, like, what's my next step? And I switched so many times. Like when I went to college, science of sport and nutrition, I was thinking I'm going to become a coach for athletes. But once I started studying that, then I thought, I'm not going to be helping humanity in a much bigger level, because how many athletes am I going to get as a coach? Like one at a time or two at a time? And then I switched to become a personal trainer. So what I'm saying, to make the long story short, is I never really set a goal or a plan. I went day by day, and I was always like, what makes me feel good now? I had times, like when I was going to college, I talked to people about it. I was working full time and I was also going to university full time. I used to sleep 2 or 3 hours at night. And I mean, half of my classes, I was sleeping, napping in the class or in the course and that stuff. I did a lot of stuff that was damaging. Like I would drink maybe 7-10 cups of cappuccino, espresso, coffee to put me through that cycle of 20 hours a day, right? And I was also dieting. Like I would have one apple at 10 a.m. and then maybe a small. I was dealing with obsessive compulsive disorder at the time, and I was extremely obsessed about my figure. So I used to be 80, 49, like 100, 810 pounds for many, many years. So I did a lot of damaging stuff knowing what I'm doing, but I still did it and I didn't care because I felt good at the time what I was, or in another way, I should say, I never really judged myself on what I was doing. Even when I was doing destructive pattern, I still didn't, I was like, okay, who cares? Like, this is what I'm doing right now, and I'm feeling good about it right now. So that switch going from the mind to the heart, it wasn't like I planned it or I decided. It was like all of a sudden, boom, this healing things and
Mm.
meditation came in my life. And I also struggled, like for 2 months, I was fighting with it because I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to be an actress. And I was acting and, going to auditions, having an agent and manager and all this stuff. So, let's say that it wasn't a conscious choice as a switch. It just happened, and I always had deep, deep, deep inside of me. I always believed in a higher power. I always believed in God, and I was very well connected. At the time that I was really low, 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 this is something that happens to people. Like I experienced major dramas in my life that maybe I didn't even talk about it, but even in the deepest moment of the dark night of the soul or the troubles, I never lost touch. I never questioned the universe or God. Again, in that moment, I said, I know you're there, and I know maybe it was my fate that just believing in God so deeply and living with God every day. Like I lived all my life with morals, what's right to do. I'm doing the right thing no matter if anybody is seeing me because there is a God there. So that was my belief, right? So
Mm.
this switch is just happened. Do you remember? Shall I share our conversation we had yesterday about when I was telling you in my vision with the entities and that stuff? Do you want to go there or do you want to stay back from there?
I'd stay back for today, and let's kind of maybe stay on specific on the habits. There's a couple things in what you were saying, and I'm going to go deeper, and then I'm going to go shallower. So, going deeper really quick into that shift from mind into intellect into heart, because I was talking to a friend about it last night, and what I think this is just kind of how it initially. Now I'm being analytical about it, but this is kind of how I see it. Is there is to me the access is authenticity. So when you say what are you thinking about, it's like there's all these things, but if you say like how do you feel right this second, right, like how do you feel right now, it's generally not going to be a lot. It's going to be very simple and pure. And then what do we do? So then there's like a insecurity around expressing our authenticity. And so our habit
Mm-hmm.
is to think about what we want to say, and we think about it and then we say something, and there's a disconnection often. And it's funny because I was talking about with my friend about honesty, and to me I see honesty and authenticity as two separate things, because everything that you say that you think that you want to say could all be truthful and honest, but it's not necessarily authentic to how you're feeling. You could say all of these things and create this whole world, and it's all true. It's all, honest. But if you're authentic about how you feel, it might be one thing, and then there's power in that, and again, what to get the leverage, I think, is most people have not experienced that power, because most of us don't have a value and belief system that doesn't care what other people think completely and totally. That like, I'm gonna use a very controversial person, to illustrate this point, and that was the former president Donald Trump. Very controversial person. That guy was hated by a lot of people. That guy said what he wanted to say. There was no filter. And if you think about, like, is there something to learn about this guy that maybe is powerful. It's that he didn't care. He's like, I'm going to say whatever's here. And that's it. He was so authentic. He's just like, this is what's up. And like, a lot of times it was pretty ugly, but like, he just said what he wanted to say. There was no filter. Most people don't live. Imagine if the entire world was like him. Imagine if every person on earth had no filter and just said what they felt. It'd be weird. It'd be super weird. And that to me, it's like if we can kind of take a lesson and model at least a little bit of that, is say, when we say how we feel, and we can kind of like get to that place of power where we don't care what anybody else thinks about what we have to say, then we can truly get rid of those insecurities around authenticity and say how we really feel. And that will really start to break those habits down of like those limitations and insecurities to live in that powerful place of authenticity. And I think when we can do that, we actually can find that access to living in a heart-centered emotional place. That's on the deeper side. On the lighter side, I've seen some comments, like, well, how can we adopt, just a good positive habit and things like that. If you don't have a really dramatic why, like, I'm going to die if I don't do this, or, like some massive, massive pain, just, not everything's going to be that dramatic. You're like, well, I want to brush my teeth this way, or floss, or I want to drink, a healthy beverage. I want to drink lemon water, or whatever, you want to do for your morning routine. Just go to your values and just say, well, I value my health and I want to live my life at a healthier level. It's as simple as that. It might be hard to put into practice, but it's like I said, maybe easier said than done, but it's easy to say. You just have to say, well, I want good hygiene. Why? Well, because for myself, and when I interact with people, I want people to see that I have clean teeth and I have fresh breath and, whatever it is, like, it's not hard to create that target, because that wraps in with another thing. People were talking about targets. It's like, you just have to have that target of saying, I want to do this. Now, you kind of have to look at your calendar. And I think that what a lot of people don't do, and I don't do, it's not like I'm good at this, but is to actually like kind of schedule it. If you need to do that, if you're the kind of person that really has trouble without being really disciplined, write it down, put it in your calendar, and start having all of these little things just pinging you from your calendar. Bing, there's go drink your water. Bing, go drink. And there are apps, there are people that need that so bad. I know a guy who needs that discipline in his life so much that he literally has like a reminder alert to drink water. And it goes off all day, every day. Go drink your glass of water, go drink your glass of water, go drink your glass of water. Now he's going to get the habit and not need the app eventually. But he knows, he has enough self-awareness to know, I need that structure in my life because I would not have it otherwise. I need the app to, the alarm to go off and tell me to go drink the water. So I think that like, you got to have that, that level of self-awareness to know, like, are you good at self-discipline? I'm pretty good at self-discipline. If I'm like, I want to change a habit, I'm pretty good at, if I have structure occurs to me as ultimate pain, like it just does. So if I've got alarms going off all day telling me to do things, I'm in misery. I need to be able to kind of flow. So, but so as a result of that though, I'm pretty good at self-disciplining and catching myself to change the habits that I want to change. But if you're not good at that, maybe you need that structure. So use your phone's calendar and just set up a bunch of daily alerts to do little things that you should or shouldn't do. Should we be honest or not? I didn't understand. Okay, so to Isabel, being honest, again, is being different than being authentic. So when sometimes we don't want to be honest with somebody I mean, it's like, I'm not going to sit here and preach that everybody should be honest all the time. I really don't like you. I really actually don't like you, or I really think that you're fat, or I really think you're ugly, or I really think you're this, that, whatever. I mean, we don't want to be mean. I think that there's, being civil and having tact and how we communicate with people. But being authentic is saying, why am I here? Why am I here in this interaction? What do I want out of this interaction in the first place? See how it's different than honesty? So with authenticity, it's saying, well, what do I want to actually say in this moment? Like, or, who am I want to be? What do I want to get out of this? So if you're going to a business meeting, well, you might say, well, what you want is to, let's say, get a contract signed, close a deal or something. And you're like, well, is that really the goal? Or is it that you want to serve the person that you're working with? Maybe that's not it. Maybe you just want the money. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, so you got to kind of know, like, what is driving you. Because if you don't know and you're not authentic with yourself, that you're going to be powerless. Even if you think that it might be shallow or you're being a victim, all these things, because being a victim is a habit. So if you're being a victim, there's a destructive habit. Like, oh, the world's bad. My world's bad. I mean, we've all been through stuff. I mean, I've been through some miserable things, but if we don't embrace that and we're dishonest with ourselves, we're not authentic. It's like, you don't know how to change it. I had a coach once really like beat me down on like what I had been through. And he was just kind of like, I don't care what you've been through. And he was trying to give me that kind of tough love. And it's not that he didn't care what I had been through, is that he thought that it was going to be a good strategy with me to try to give me that tough love of like, we've all been through terrible things and screw what you've been through. Who cares? Nobody cares. Stop belly aching. It didn't really work. And so and he realized it didn't work. And so he's like, I'm sorry, it's not really how I feel. I was trying a strategy with you. He said, but you can fall into this victim place if you feel like you have no say. If you're a victim, you're powerless. So what you want is power. So even if you are being a victim, recognize it. This is authenticity, being honest with yourself. Recognize that you're there and recognize what it is that you're looking for. And what it was I just didn't have any support. I really needed some support in my life. So that helped me to shift out of being a victim, because then I started to be authentic with the people in my life. This is why I'm talking about being honest and authentic. What I realized was that in my interactions, maybe I wasn't looking even for romance. What I really wanted was a friend. What I really was looking for was some love and support just for me as a person and everything that I had been through. And when I finally got that, I could become authentic, and then I could bring that to all of the different interactions that I was having. And, even if I needed to say it like, look, I've been through hell and I really could use some love and support right now. You see how like that gives you authenticity? It gives you that power. And that's shifting that habit between, well, let me intellectualize what I want to say to this person to make them like me and want to hang around with me or do things with me, and then just being super authentic and saying, I really have been through hell and I need some love and support. And that gives other people power, because then the other person can say, that's great, and I can give it to you. Or, you know what, I'm going through a lot of stuff myself, and I don't have the capacity to give that to you because I need it. So, you start opening up a deeper connection with people and giving other people choice in the communication.
Jeff,
I don't know yes.
I want to jump in and open up two different areas. Number one, regarding to her question, I think as you are speaking, I'm thinking that this is again something very individually, because we have to look at the cultures, right? I'm Iranian. I lived in Europe. I have with my French boyfriend for 5.5 years. I lived in US, I lived in Canada, so I know different cultures, right? When you look at the Iranian cultures, we are way, way, way too conservative. We never say what we think. We always we have this thing we call taarruf. Oh, no, 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 thank you. Like you want to do something, but this is a totally different culture where this question is coming from. When I lived in Europe, I realized that European, I don't care because a lot of American things, French people are snob and that's not true because my ex-boyfriend was French. I hang out with French people and I know them. In my vision, if I want to generalize, European people are most authentic and more transparent. They might come up much more drier than Canadians or Americans, but they get closer to the truth, right? So this is something that we have to look at because the one she's talking, she's asking you this question: should we be authentic? Should we be transparent or should we not be? Should we be that bland or not? It depends on her. Like there are so many stages. Where are you at? If you're one of those people who never say what you think or you never allow yourself, then you need to move more towards this part to be really saying what you think. Come out of your shyness and all this thing. The other part is I have, I don't want to say suffered, but I had absolutely no filter. Like I would say hello to you and I would just look at you deeply and I say, there's something about you that I don't like. I don't think you're honest. That's like boom. And I had absolutely no filter. I'm not kidding you. Like I had a contract. This guy came to me and he wanted to write down 5 years contract with me with a top high salary. And I worked with him for a month and I went to him and I said, you know what? We just have to cancel this. I don't like your energy. I don't like the way you guys are. And he got really upset. So what I'm saying is for someone like me who had absolutely no filter, would just say whatever I would think, I would just say it and I didn't care. And somehow, something else, I want to open another window here. See, when it comes to job or working with others, I was also the same way. I would just say what I thought. I would just say, I don't think your company is worth it, or I don't think this company is going to go anywhere. It's just going to be a waste of my time. Yet, being that blunt, although I thought, well, maybe I could be wrong, but this is an amazing opportunity. Even if I was blunt and I was like maybe obnoxious or even rude, the way I approached it, I think there is something that we as humans have to really pay attention. And that is that where is my power? Like, where am I coming from? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because I somehow, not knowing, but I was somehow connected, I was coming from my inner power and I project that out there. So if somebody would come to me to get into business or do deals or whatever, even though I was transparent and I was rude and I didn't care what I was saying, I just said what I meant, they were picking up that inner power, that strength. And they would say, she's rude, she's obnoxious, she's whatever, but we want her. You see what I'm saying? But on the contrary, if you're somebody who's don't know your power, you're not tapping to your inner power, you're just desperate, you're coming from neediness, you've been out of job for so long, and you're going and you desperately want this job, you're carrying that energy. And of course, you have to be slimy. You have to say, yes, I would be the best choice for you.
Yeah, but let me jump in there. on a couple of things. So number one, as I think you brought up an important point about culture, because every culture is different, you know, and if you were to look at like Jungian typology, the introverted, extroverted thinker feeler, like you've got Myers-Briggs, you have all these other things that have expanded upon it, but with traditional Jungian psychology, there's only four: the introverted thinker, the introverted feeler, the extroverted thinker, the extroverted feeler. And I think that we can go culture by culture and see a common thread. So you might have Americans that are dominantly extroverted feelers and extroverted, like there's more extroverts, where like you might go to a more Asian community that's more reserved and they're quiet. So they're more introverted and they're thinkers, or, you know, so you are going to see these things, and there is no right or wrong, but there is culture. And so this is kind of maybe for another time, because again, this is a big subject. This starts getting into beliefs. We've talked about habits and values. That starts getting into the beliefs component, because every culture has different beliefs. Do I get to talk, if I'm a guest, do I get to talk at the dinner table? Am I male? Am I female? Where, you know, what if it's like burping, right? Like in some cultures, if you don't burp at the end of your meal, it's rude, right? We think burping is, how did you burped? That's rude. Well, there are cultures where if you don't burp, it's rude. So there are those sorts of things where those are the belief systems. I think that again is the belief component around habits. So there's the value component, there is the belief component. Maybe let's save that for another time. I think that with the other part of that, as far as interviewing, I wanted to touch on that though, because I think that when you can become authentic and you can shift, you know, your habit, because again, I do believe that becoming authentic is a habit. To really get out of your head into your heart and say how you really feel about things is a habit. And so you're saying, well, you need a you know, this could be for multiple things. You need a strategy. Well, to have a strategy, your target, your strategy, your target, your values are what life do I want to live? You create the target of, I want to be happy. You make happiness a priority. Well, that sounds really simple. Well, everybody should make happiness a priority. Well, they don't do it. They say it, but they don't do it. And so if you make happiness a priority, you're going to go into a job interview very, very differently. Or even if it's a contract, let's say it's an interview, a meeting over a contract, you know, for your time. Whether it's an interview for a job, traditional employment, or a contract for your time, it's all, you know, your income generation through your time. You know, you're trading your time for money, your income. Now, because I actually do some coaching for young professionals, and I coach them on how to interview and how to be in interviews. And they feel the way that you were going there, like you got to lie and you got to schmooze and say all the right things. You do not have to say all the right things. You need to be authentic. If you're authentic and you're self-aware, like I might go to somebody and say, look, to be honest, I have literally told people, and I've gotten interviews out of this, and I didn't get the job because I didn't want the job, but I have literally approached companies and said, I don't care about your company. And now this is bold. I said, I don't know who your company is, because these are traditional strategies. Research a company, tell them how much you'd love to work for them, that kind of stuff. And I'd say, I don't know who you are. And quite honestly, I don't care who you are. But I'm amazing at this job function. So if you want an amazing person in this position, you should interview me. It's worth having the conversation. But I'm not going to blow smoke and tell you that I know you or care about you. I don't. But I'm amazingly effective at this position. I'm being incredibly authentic because I have made being authentic a habit as much as possible. I'm not all the way there in every context, which leads me into something else, which is, I don't want to move on yet, but I know we're running out of time, and that is, oh shoot, what did I want it to go into? Well, I forget. So let me just kind of go back to the interviewing stuff. And that is, if you can kind of develop if you set being authentic. Oh, I know what I wanted to say, which was repetition. We need the repetition. If we don't have the repetition, picking up the glass with my left hand, changing it to my right. Well, that's easy because you know what repetition I can do? I can put the glass down. I can pick it up. I can put the glass down. I can pick it up. I can put the glass down. Well, if I did this all day long, it'd be boring. I'd have a really boring Sunday. But if I did this all day today, by tomorrow morning, it could be that fast. By tomorrow morning, I might pick up the glass with my right hand. But if I want to present myself powerfully in an interview, I'm not going to be able to sit here all day on Sunday and just have interviews because I feel like it. Right? If I want to perform a certain way romantically, which a lot of people, everyone's interested in that, right? We're biologically wired to want to come together. So you need a lot of opportunity. So you got to, how are you going to get that opportunity? It's like, well, you could line up 1,000 dates. Well, that seems like a lot of work. But, like if you lined up 1,000 dates, then chances are by date 900, you're probably going to be performing how you want to perform. And so those are the things you do need to have that opportunity. You got to create that opportunity for that repetition to happen, giving yourself permission, like I'm probably going to screw it up in the beginning, but you're going to get there. And like when I coach the young professionals, that's what I tell them. It's like, I've given you a head full of knowledge, but it's not going to be a habit. You're probably going to go into this next interview and do better than you have, but you're probably going to slip back into the old habits of saying this, saying that, wanting to be a certain way, but you might catch yourself. And the more you interview, maybe it's the third interview or the fourth interview, you're going to start to catch yourself and make those shifts. And I have seen that. So, again, making that shift to authenticity and being able to present yourself, one of the biggest things is we like what runs away from us. We love what moves away from us. We chase what moves away from us. So if you go into an interview and you just go, look, I might not be the right person, but I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm bad at. And this is where like my level of authenticity as a habit, is so strong in a professional sense that like, I will tell people like, I know what's ultimate pain for me. If you want me, I'm a very talkative person. You need to put me in a position where I'm talking. Like if I'm going to be staring at spreadsheets on a computer all day and doing data entry, that's like ultimate pain. And I've had to do that. And it's like, if I do it for a day, it's kind of like a nice vacation for a day to like sit and just type stuff into a computer. And then after a day, it's ultimate pain. So I need to be able to have that self-awareness and then train the habit of being authentic to tell the people that I'm speaking to. Now, what's the why? Because I don't want to be miserable. That's the why. I want to enjoy my life. And you might have to work because you might have to get income because you have to put a roof over your head and you have to buy food, but you don't have to be miserable. And I'd give, I don't know the demographics of anybody that's listening to this, but what I will say is that again, when I'm coaching the young professionals, I don't coach them. We get lied to. Find a job that you like. Do something you like. No, you're not going to be happy. Nobody is happy doing anything that they like. This is my personal belief, okay? You're not going to be happy doing what you like. You're going to be happy when you're effective. When you're doing what you're good at and you're effective, that's where you're going to get fulfillment. It's different than happiness. So when I walk into a job, I could go to a company that I don't care about in an industry that I don't care about. But if I'm effective, somebody goes, look, you don't know anything about our company. You don't know anything about this industry, but we need you to get on Instagram Lives and we need you to go out in front of crowds of people and we need you to talk about what we do. So we need you to get a certain level of education about our company. We need you to get a certain level of education about the industry and our competition, but we need you to be the front face of our company, to go out there and sell who we are to the world. I'll be happy. I'll be happy. It might not be my dream, but I'll be happy because I'm doing what I'm effective at, which is standing in front of people, being in front of people, and talking. So that's where your why can influence and give you leverage over that habit to shift professionally from like how I've been in interviews and looking for jobs versus how can I be authentic and look for things that utilize my strengths and play to my strengths so that I'll feel fulfillment each day.
So I have a question for you, Jeff. Why did you separate what you like or love to do from what your talents are and what you're good at?
Because I think that we think about what we like from a very young age. You know, like parents, what do you want to do when you grow up? Adults, authority figures, who do you want to be when you grow up? And our interests change throughout our life. But I think that sometimes we think that we like something, and that means that we think we would like doing the thing. So a lot of people, you're an actress and have done a lot of acting. A lot of people think that they would like to act, but then they're not effective at it. They're not effective at it, and everything, the entire world of it, the extra classes, the ongoing training, the auditioning, the ongoing hustle, all occurs as ultimate pain. Like, well, what do you actually want? Maybe you don't actually want to act. Maybe you just like acting, or you like the idea of acting, but you're not really effective at it, and the entire thing occurs to you as ultimate pain. That's what I'm talking about. So I think a lot of times that when we are driven by what we like, it's like we just haven't really analyzed why we like it, if we truly like it, what it is about it. So like for me, I'm a performing artist. Well, what do I like about it? Well, I like being in front of people, and I'm effective at it. So when I perform, like I play guitar and I sing, if I'm in a group where I'm not singing, it doesn't matter if I'm just playing guitar, I put on a show, and I'm often the only person on stage putting on a show, or it's me and the singer. We're the only two people putting on a show. Why? Because I'm effective at it. I like it, and I'm effective at it. And I know, and my why is because I want people to have the best time possible. So I think that sometimes we need to, I don't know, I think that sometimes we need to separate or at least analyze the likes, because we think we like things, and we need to get a little deeper.
Let me open something up here. Let me open up something. As we always hear, like Wayne Dyer used to talk about this too. He says you have a job and you have a calling, right? So we kind of can say the job is where it comes from the ego mind. You got to have a job, you got to bring money because you got expenses. Your life path, your life true purpose, or your calling is something that comes from your heart and soul, right? So basically, when I come in and I know what are my strengths, what part of I'm good at. I was talking to you about this yesterday. I said, we just automatically come with some talent. We don't have to do anything for it. I mean, I have been an entertainer from the time I was a little kid. I came with that talent. I'm a speaker. I can be effective. That's it. These are the stuff that I come in with, right? So now I never thought that I have to make a living off this, but I always was gravitated towards what's calling me right now. So what's calling me right now and making me feel good, and I have this urge that I don't have to put energy, the energy just comes with it, is actually something that I love right now. So a few years ago is acting. few years back is healing, few years back is this. So what I'm saying is it doesn't have to be black and white. Our interest through years could change. Also, our talents, we are multi-dimensional human beings. We have many talents that some of them I might even don't know. I'm not even aware that, oh, I have this talent. Really, I'm good at it. I didn't know that. So why can it be colorful, and we can love what we do, and our interest can also change as and we can use multiple talents at different times. Because here's the thing, I'm thinking sometimes people have a session with me, and the majority of time is, what is my life purpose? I said, what you love to do, what makes you feel good every moment, and that doesn't have to be just one thing. You know, I came here and I want to try and experience many things. So today I could be acting and loving it. I can go on stage and I would be fully present there and I love it. I can be doing a show, I can be doing a seminar, I can be painting, and I can be I don't know, skate teacher. I can have many, many interests, and all of them can be my life purpose, and all of these are happening stimulously. And it's, what do you think about that?
I'm pulling
And we're
something.
going to wrap up soon.
I've got my laptop behind the phone here, which is why I'm not looking at you. I'm pulling something
You
up
don't
here
have to look
because
at me. You can look at your laptop.
there's some, well, because I referenced this thing. I got turned on to this and I reference it so much that I didn't want to mispronounce it. So there is, you ever heard of Ikigai?
Ikigai? No.
Ikigai, Ikigai. You might want
No.
to, yeah. I mean, this is something that you probably even post this on your on page at some point. Probably it would fold right into what you're saying. So ikigai is a Japanese concept meaning a reason for being. It's amazing. So you can't see it, and I can't. It's not on the phone, so I can't like show you. But it's just on the laptop here, and I encourage everybody to go look it up. And it's four circles and they overlap. And so you've got one which is what you love, one which is what the world needs, one which is what you can be paid for, and one which is what you're good at. And they all overlap. So it's kind of like you have like two over here that overlap and two over here that overlap. But then you get a little closer. It's three that overlap and three that overlap. And then the goal of life fulfillment is all four of them overlapping in the center. And that's when you really have, where what you're good at, what you could be paid for, what the world needs, and what you love, all four of those things are happening in your life. You have achieved the reason for being. You have achieved. Okay, let me see if I can get it here. So, let's see. This is terrible.
Yeah, you're doing fine. That was
Okay,
great. The other
there.
way around.
Can you see this?
Yes, but you gotta turn your camera the other way around. We're seeing it sideway now. You
Oh,
wanna bring
I
this
got you. I got
person.
you. Yeah.
There you go. Now you got it. Close
Okay.
up.
So, all right. Do you see that?
Yeah. Yes. Mm.
So you can see like, well, what you love and what you're good at is your passion. What you love and what the world needs is your mission. What you're good at, what you can be paid for is your profession. And then what you can be paid for, what the world needs is a vocation. And then you get like the three in the top. What you love and your passion and mission is delight, fullness, but no wealth because you're not getting paid for anything. Right. And then on the right corner, you get excitement and complacency, but a sense of uncertainty because you're not good at it, right? It's what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, but you're not sure that you're good at it. So there's a sense of uncertainty. Or on the left, it's not what the world needs. So it's a satisfaction, but a feeling of uselessness. You're good at it, you love it, you can be paid for it, but the world doesn't necessarily need it. So you feel kind of useless. And then at the bottom, what you're good at, what the world needs, and you can be paid for, comfortable, but feeling of emptiness because you don't love it. You're good at it, you can be paid for it, and the world needs it, but you're empty because there's no love. And then in the center is just, again, you've achieved it. It's everything that you were saying. I love this chart, and I think it's something that is just something we should look at a regular basis. And so the person that turned me on to it, he had everybody score it like on a scale of 1 to 10. And I think there are websites, I can't point to any right now, but I think if you search for it, there are websites that you can like take a test and like you score yourself at each of these things to
Mm-hmm.
see like how high or how low you score. And
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of an eye opener. I'm going to turn this around. It's a big eye opener because you might realize that like one of them is empty. You know, even if it's not love, you know, it's you're just like, wow, what the world needs, I'm working at a 1. Everything I'm doing is a 1. Or like, man, I'm really bad at like being good at anything, which nobody's bad at everything. Everybody's good at something. But like, you know, I think that these are very important. It's just a very important thing to be looking at and that sort of stuff. It's really good. As far as like forming targets, you know, kind of bringing this back so we can kind of wrap it up on maybe on the habits and stuff. Um, I think that this chart is important because this will help you create targets. And then, you know, for all of these things, you can kind of say, well, what's the sabotage that's happening? What's the failure that's happening? And so if you're broke all the time, you might say, look, I'm holding happiness at such a level that it's distorted my view of income. And so I never take work that pays me well because I always end up just going for what I love and makes me happy. I don't care if I'm broke. And it's like, well, you know that you can do both. So maybe you should move in that direction, but put some importance on what you can be paid for, you know, or maybe you just never care about anything like what the world needs. And it's like, I mean, for me, it's like those people tend to occur to me as pretty shallow if none of their being is focused on what the world needs, you know, and
Jeff, I'm sorry,
yep,
love. I got it. It's 11:11.
yep, we've gone
And I
over.
have a session at 11:30.
Yep.
Although I totally disagree with what you said, but I can
Oh,
collaborate on it. So
okay.
if you're willing, let's do another live, and then we get more into it. What do you say?
Sure. Yeah,
Yes?
we'll connect and we'll schedule it.
Okay. Love to you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Gotta go. Happy Sunday. Bye.